Ever feel like you're wading through just an absolute jungle of information, trying to find that one thing that's actually worth your attention?
Oh, yeah. News, trends, opinions. It's overwhelming sometimes.
It really is. Well, today we're aiming to be your guide, sort of cutting through all that noise to bring you the most fascinating finds.
And this isn't just a quick skim, right? We're going deeper.
Exactly. We've plunged into the May 17th, 2025 commentary from the news aggregator Consumers.app.
Consumers.app. They do a good job pulling together different sources on consumer topics.
They do. Think of them as that friend who reads everything and just tells you the really interesting bits, all nicely categorized.
My guns.
So our mission today is to unearth the key consumer trends and news they spotlighted. We want to serve insights that are, informative, but also make you go, huh, okay, without feeling totally overloaded.
And what's striking looking at their compilation is how different sectors are, grappling with similar underlying shifts.
Of what?
Particularly around responsible consumption and how technology is woven into almost, every aspect of that.
Exactly. And let's start with something many of us enjoy, a good pastry.
Always a good place to start.
Right. According to a headline from Asian News International on MSN.com, how sustainability and ethics are reshaping the pastry world. Chef Chaitanya Rai, baking with purpose.
So it seems even our sweet treats are getting more conscious.
Yeah, and what's significant here is that this isn't just some, niche thing anymore. Sustainability and ethics are becoming really central.
Especially in high-end kitchens.
Especially there.
Yeah.
We're talking Michelin-starred chefs. They're not just focused on flavor anymore. They're actively looking at where their ingredients come from, how they reduce waste.
Fair labor practices, too, I imagine.
Absolutely. Fair labor throughout the supply chain. It's a much more holistic view of running a responsible kitchen.
Right. And Consumers Research asked about this. How are sustainability and ethics being integrated into the pastry world, particularly in Michelin-starred kitchens? And the answer points to chefs like Will Goldfarb, who's really pushing for local ingredients, minimizing single-use plastics.
That plastic issue is huge.
It is. And interestingly, Michelin is actually factoring these sustainable initiatives into their star ratings now.
That's kind of a big deal, isn't it? Shows consumer values are shifting things even at the top.
Definitely. It signals a real change.
Okay, so Consumers Research also asked, what role do innovative business models play in advancing sustainability, especially for pastry chefs?
Well, think about how tech is changing everything. These innovative models are key.
How so?
Imagine chefs using digital platforms to connect directly with local farmers. That means shorter, more transparent supply chains.
Okay, I see.
Or e-commerce models helping predict demand blur, which cuts down on ingredient waste.
Makes sense.
And then there's the Internet of Things, IoT, sensors tracking conditions from the farm right to the kitchen. That gives a level of traceability that, consumers increasingly want.
People want to know where their food comes from.
Exactly. And this whole shift is also fueled by social movements, urban conditions. It raises a question for you listening. Does this transparency change your choices? Would you pick a bakery specifically because they're ethical?
It definitely adds another layer when you're staring at that cake display, doesn't it? Okay, let's zoom in on the ingredients themselves. Consumers Research asked, what are the latest advancements in sustainable agri-food practices that impact pastry ingredient sourcing?
This is where the science gets pretty interesting. Things like metal oxide nanomaterials, MOX and Ms.
Okay, what are those?
They're tiny engineered particles. They could potentially, deliver nutrients to plants more efficiently or offer greener pest control.
So ingredients made with less environmental impact.
That's the potential, yes. Lower footprint while still ensuring safety and quality. It's early days, but it points to a future where even farming basics get more sustainable. Does knowing about this sort of thing change how you think about your food?
It's certainly food for thought. Now let's tackle a tricky one. Palm oil. Consumers Research asked, how does the use of palm oil in pastry production relate to sustainability and environmental concerns?
Yeah, this is critical. Palm oil is everywhere in pastries. It's cost-effective, gives good texture.
But the environmental cost is high.
Very high. It's heavily linked to deforestation, biodiversity loss, especially in places like Indonesia and Malaysia.
I've heard it's more land efficient, though.
It can be compared to some other oils, but the ecological and, frankly, human rights issues are undeniable.
So what's the trend now?
Well, there's a growing push towards certified sustainable palm oil, or finding alternatives altogether, trying to cut that carbon footprint and ecological harm. Does knowing this make you think twice about that ingredients list?
It definitely gives me pause. Okay, so chefs are thinking about ingredients. What about their own kitchens? Consumers Research asked, how are pastry chefs reducing their carbon footprint and food waste?
This is where you see practical changes. Chefs are investing in energy-efficient ovens, mixers, you name it.
Composting.
Oh, yeah, comprehensive composting programs. And getting creative with repurposing scraps, things that might otherwise just get tossed.
Local sourcing, too.
That's gaining traction, reducing transport emissions. Some are even meticulously tracking their waste and energy use to set reduction goals. It's a real multi-pronged approach.
For those of us who care about the environment, these are the concrete steps we want to see.
Exactly, tangible actions.
But it can't be easy. Consumers Research followed up. What challenges do pastry chefs face when implementing sustainable and ethical practices?
And this is the reality check, isn't it? Sustainable ingredients often cost more.
And they might not always be available.
Right. Limited availability is a real issue. Plus, you need to train staff on new methods.
And balance costs with customer expectations.
Exactly. Chefs have to juggle sustainability commitments with keeping prices reasonable. And the lack of universal standards for what sustainable even means adds confusion.
Sounds tough.
It is. But as Consumers Research points out, consumer demand and industry recognition are powerful motivators. They're pushing chefs to find solutions. This probably resonates if you're in an industry facing similar changes.
It's good to hear consumer demand is actually driving this.
Yeah.
Now, looking bigger picture again, Consumers Research asked, according to recent scholarly research, what is the impact of technology-driven agriculture on the sustainability of pastry ingredients?
Yeah, this loops back to innovation. Research shows technologies like real-time soil sensors or smart irrigation are making farming more efficient and sustainable.
So better ingredients with fewer resources.
Potentially, yes. Higher quality using less water, less fertilizer, less environmental impact overall. And these techs often boost traceability too.
Giving chefs, and ultimately us, more confidence in the sustainability claims.
Precisely.
Fascinating how high-tech farming connects to, your morning croissant. And Consumers.app provided references for this, like the Wikipedia pages for Will Goldfarb and palm oil, if you want to dig deeper.
Okay, let's shift gears. From pastries to education. A really different field, but similar themes emerge.
Right. We saw that headline from the Chicago Sun-Times. District to earn sustainability certification in national program.
That's Chicago Public Schools, a big deal for a major district.
Definitely. Consumers Research asked, what is the significance of CPS earning a gold certification in the Healthy Green Schools and Colleges program?
Well, getting that top-tier gold certification, especially for a huge urban district like CPS, it really signals leadership. It shows a deep commitment.
And the program itself covers a lot, doesn't it?
It does. Rigorous standards on everything from indoor air quality, waste management, energy, water efficiency, plus environmental education woven into the curriculum.
So it's not just symbolic.
Not at all. It sets a powerful example for other large institutions. Shows these big sustainability projects are doable and worthwhile. It could have real positive impacts in communities, starting right in schools.
Like planting seeds for a greener future. Consumers Research also asked, how does the Healthy Green Schools and Colleges program contribute to sustainability in education?
It basically provides a clear roadmap. Tangible, measurable improvements.
Best practices.
Exactly. Best practice criteria to guide schools in cutting their environmental footprint, creating healthier learning spaces, and crucially, weaving sustainability into their whole educational mission.
It's not just about saving money on bills, then?
No, it's about cultivating that environmental responsibility in students from a young age, hopefully something that sticks with them. As a listener, what kind of long-term impact do you think that early exposure might have?
It could really shape their whole outlook.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the tech side of education. Consumers Research asked, according to recent scholarly research, how are knowledge graphs being used to support sustainability in K-12 education?
Knowledge graphs. Okay, think of them like interconnected webs of information. Super clever application here.
Instead of just separate documents.
Right. Instead of teachers or students wading through endless separate files or websites, a knowledge graph organizes sustainability content logically, shows the relationships between concepts.
Give me an example.
Okay, a teacher planning a lesson on climate change could use it to quickly find linked resources on, say, greenhouse gases, renewables, local impacts,
Yeah.
all connected.
Makes curriculum development much easier, I bet,
Yeah.
especially for a fast-moving field like sustainability.
Exactly. Dynamic access to up-to-date stuff. If you're into EdTech, this is a great example of innovation-boosting learning.
Definitely smart. What about even more advanced tech like AI? Consumers Research inquired. What are the challenges and opportunities in integrating machine learning and AI into sustainable K-12 educational practices?
Well, this is definitely a frontier. Lots of potential, but also some real hurdles.
Such as?
AI could offer personalized learning on sustainability, maybe automate some admin tasks, provide cool data analysis tools for science projects.
But
The research flags things like, well, teachers often lack training in AI. There aren't clear curriculum guidelines yet. And schools need affordable, easy-to-use toolkits.
Still, there must be some promising examples.
Well, yes. Things like using open-source machine learning in high school environmental engineering courses. That can really spark student innovation. It makes you think, doesn't it? How can tech best serve education on critical issues like this?
Definitely on the cusp of some changes there.
Yeah.
Now, what about the school environment itself? Consumers Research asked, how does sustainability in school environments influence student health and performance?
This is so fundamental, it directly impacts kids' well-being and success.
How so?
Research consistently links things like better indoor air quality, less exposure to harmful chemicals, access to healthy, sustainable food, links all that to better student health and improved academic performance.
Fewer sick days, more focus.
Exactly. Healthier environments mean less absenteeism, more engagement, even better cognitive function. If you're a parent or involved in schools, this just highlights how vital, sustainable, healthy schools are.
Absolutely. A healthy school really does set the stage. Okay, zooming out again, Consumers Research asked, what is the broader role of sustainability certifications and standards in driving environmental change across sectors, including education?
These certifications, they act like catalysts, powerful ones.
How do they do that?
They provide clear benchmarks. They encourage organizations, schools included, to adopt and stick with responsible practices. They offer measurable targets.
In transparency.
Yes, promote transparency by showing stakeholders what's actually being done. And they build in accountability.
So like the CPS Gold certification.
Right. I can inspire other districts, maybe attract funding, and just generally drive wider adoption of sustainable practices. It gives everyone a common language, a recognized framework for progress.
Creates a sort of race to the top for sustainability. Okay, finally on this topic, Consumers Research looked at the big challenges. What global challenges and debates affect the implementation of sustainability in large organizations like school districts?
Yeah, implementing this stuff on a large scale is inherently complex. You're balancing economic needs with conservation goals.
Measurement is tricky too, I imagine.
Very tricky. Accurately measuring and reporting sustainability efforts is tough, and there are often difficult trade-offs between different goals.
Plus, institutional inertia. Old habits die hard.
Definitely. Inertia, maybe inconsistent regulations, even the fact that sustainability can mean different things to different people. It's all complex.
But schools have a key role.
A particularly significant role, as Consumers Research notes, they're shaping future attitudes and behaviors around these huge global challenges. So their own efforts are really critical.
Profound issues indeed. And again, Consumers.app pointed to Wikipedia for sustainability and the Healthy Green Schools and Colleges program if you want more background.
All right, our journey through Consumers.app's commentary now shifts to industry and infrastructure, specifically transportation.
Ah, yes, the headline from 11 Alive. Norfolk Southern boosts sustainability with new rail green initiative. Seems even freight rail is trying to get greener.
Exactly. A sector we often think of as emissions heavy is making moves.
So Consumers Research asked, what is the primary goal of Norfolk Southern's Rail Green initiative, and how does it contribute to sustainability?
The main goal is pretty straightforward, to give their customers verified proof of the greenhouse gas emission reductions they get by using rail instead of trucks.
And rail is significantly better, emissions-wise.
Up to 75% less GHG per ton mile, potentially. So this initiative directly helps companies trying to decarbonize their supply chains, and it boosts transparency in their sustainability reporting.
This would be really interesting if you work in logistics or supply chain management.
Absolutely, or any industry moving goods.
Okay, so how does this certification actually work? Consumers Research asked. How does the certification process under the Rail Green Initiative work?
It's data-driven. Norfolk Southern analyzes the actual freight movements.
Okay.
Then they compare the rail emissions to what the emissions would have been if the same goods went by truck, using standard methods like the EPA's SmartWay program.
And the customer gets a certificate.
Right. A Rail Green certificate detailing the specific GHG savings. They can then use that for their own ESG environmental, social, governance disclosures. It's concrete proof.
Not just a vague claim, but backed by data. Consumers research also ask about the bigger picture. What are the broader environmental impacts of shifting freight from highway trucks to rail?
The environmental pluses are quite significant. Like we said, that potential 75% GHG reduction per ton mile is huge.
And fuel efficiency.
Railroads are way more fuel efficient, often 3 to 4 times better than trucks. That means less energy used overall, less air pollution.
These are substantial benefits considering how much freight moves around.
Definitely. It really highlights why investing in efficient transport infrastructure matters so much.
It makes a strong case for trains in a sustainable future. Now, is technology helping here too? Consumers Research asked. How are advances in artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning improving the measurement and certification of corporate sustainability metrics in the transportation industry?
Yes, AI and machine learning are proving incredibly valuable here.
Oh.
Well, scholarly research shows these technologies can automate and improve the complex job of extracting, analyzing, and validating sustainability data, including transport emissions.
So for something like Rail Green.
AI can help ensure the accuracy and reliability of those emissions reduction certificates, makes the whole process more efficient, more trustworthy, better tracking, better reporting.
Makes sense. The amount of data must be enormous, but it can't be without challenges. Consumers Research asked. What are the key challenges companies face when certifying greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and how are they being addressed?
There are definitely hurdles, like inconsistencies in how companies report data.
Different methods.
Exactly. Lack of universally agreed upon calculation methods, and just the sheer complexity of tracking emissions across global supply chains.
So what are the solutions?
The industry is innovating. We're seeing automated data extraction tools, wider adoption of standards like EPA SmartWay, and more use of independent third-party verification.
To boost credibility.
Precisely. These steps are crucial for building trust and making sure these certifications actually mean something.
Standardization and verification seem key. Consumers Research then asked, what scholarly evidence exists on the effectiveness of sustainability certifications in driving meaningful GHG emissions reductions?
Encouragingly, academic research does suggest that credible certification processes incentivize companies.
How so?
When companies can accurately measure and verify their reductions, they're more likely to set ambitious targets. And align with regulations and investor expectations, investors are increasingly focused on ESG.
Creates a positive feedback loop, maybe.
Exactly. That can drive significant emissions cuts across the sector.
Good to know these initiatives can actually work. Finally, Consumers Research asked, how does the Rail Green Initiative align with global trends? And what are its potential implications?
It fits right in with global trends, emphasizing sustainability, transparency, and data-driven decisions in freight.
Helping customers meet their own goals.
Yes, meet their ESG goals, potentially comply with new reporting rules, and this kind of initiative can be a model for others.
Accelerating the shift to lower emission logistics.
Potentially, yes. Supporting broader climate goals, it makes sustainable choices not just possible, but provable and good for business.
Looks like a positive step for greener transport. And Consumers.app suggested checking Norfolk Southern Railway on Wikipedia and EPA SmartWay resources for more details.
Okay, moving beyond specific industries, Consumers.app also highlighted a broader trend, more demand for assurance on sustainability reporting.
Right, that biz community headline on MSN.com. More global companies seek assurance on sustainability reporting. Study by IFAC, AICPA, and SEMA shows. Points to more emphasis on accountability.
Absolutely. Trust is becoming paramount.
So Consumers Research started with basics. What is sustainability reporting and why is it significant?
In essence, it's companies disclosing their ESG performance, environmental, social, governance.
And why is that important?
It fosters transparency with stakeholders, builds consumer trust. Consumers care more and more about these things, and it boosts a company's reputation.
Plus, it's becoming mandatory in some places.
Yes, like the EU's Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the CSRD. It reflects a global shift, holding companies accountable for more than just the bottom line.
Understanding their wider impact. Consumers Research then asked, How widely are sustainability reporting frameworks, such as the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, adopted?
GRI has really become the dominant global standard here.
How dominant?
A 2022 KPMG survey found 78% of the world's largest 250 companies and 68% of the top 100 companies across many countries use GRI standards.
Wow, that's widespread adoption.
Yeah.
Shows a broad agreement on needing standard guidelines.
It seems GRI is becoming the common language for sustainability performance.
Okay, and Consumers Research also reported. What percentage of the world's largest companies seek assurance? And which information category is most commonly assured?
This study by IFAC, AICPA, and CIMA found a significant number, 73% of the largest global firms now get some external assurance on their sustainability disclosures.
And what are they getting assured most often?
Greenhouse gas emissions, that's the most common category.
Suggests companies are prioritizing climate data credibility.
Seems likely, yes. Probably due to intense scrutiny from investors and regulators on climate issues.
Makes sense. But what makes this assurance process difficult? Consumers Research asked, what are the main challenges faced in corporate sustainability assessments?
Academic literature points to several key issues. Often it starts with the data itself.
How so?
It can be incomplete, ambiguous, unreliable, or just really complex. Analysts might lack resources or expertise to evaluate it thoroughly. And there's always potential for bias in subjective assessments.
Undermines the whole point, doesn't it? If you can't trust the data.
Exactly. It hinders stakeholders from making informed decisions.
So how are we tackling these data problems? Consumers Research inquired, how are advanced technologies like natural language processing, NLP, being used to improve the analysis of sustainability reports?
Technology is offering some promising solutions here. Advanced NLP tools, including something called explainable NLP or XNLP.
Okay.
These tools can help make sense of complex reports, clean up unstructured text data, standardize info from different ESG reports, basically leading to more reliable, transparent assessments.
Using AI for more data-driven evaluation. Less subjective.
That's the goal, moving towards more robust evaluation of environmental and social performance.
Sounds like a big improvement. Consumers Research also asked, what is the role of assurance in sustainability reporting, and how does it enhance credibility?
Assurance is essentially independent verification by a third-party expert.
Like a financial audit, but for sustainability.
Exactly like that. It plays a vital role in boosting the credibility of the reported info. When an independent body verifies data, especially key metrics like GHG emissions, stakeholders have more confidence it's accurate and fairly presented.
Adds that crucial layer of reliability and accountability.
Precisely. It's about building trust.
Okay, looking ahead, Consumers Research asked, what trends are shaping the future of sustainability assurance in reporting frameworks?
Several big trends. More regulation, like the EU's CSRD we mentioned.
Continued adoption of standards like GRI.
Yes, that continues and grows. And increasing integration of advanced data analytics and digital tech to manage and assure the information.
So the main themes are
greater transparency, better comparability of data across companies, and using tech to make the whole process more robust and reliable. It's a fundamental shift globally towards more comprehensive, accountable sustainability practices.
So it's like sustainability reporting is definitely maturing. And Consumers.app provided links if you want more details. Wikipedia for sustainability reporting and GRI, and the IFAC, AICPA, and CIMA study itself.
All right, now let's turn to health and longevity, a topic that affects everyone.
Yes, the headline from Dev Discourse was intriguing. Unlocking Longevity, the carb connection to healthy aging. Challenges some common ideas about carbs, right?
It does. Consumers Research started with, what did the recent Tufts and Harvard study reveal about the connection between high-quality carbohydrate and dietary fiber intake in midlife and healthy aging in women?
A 2025 study. What did it find?
A significant link. Higher intake of high-quality carbs, think whole grains, fruits, veggies, legumes, plus dietary fiber in midlife, was linked to much greater odds of healthy aging later on in women.
And refined carbs.
Higher intake of those was linked to lower odds of healthy aging.
How do they define healthy aging?
Living to an older age free from major chronic diseases, good cognitive and physical function, and good mental health.
So the type of carb matters, especially in middle age.
Seems so. The choices we make then can have a profound impact later. Something for all of us to think about for long-term health.
Not eliminating carbs, but choosing wisely. Consumers Research followed up. What types of carbohydrates are considered high quality, and how do they differ from refined carbohydrates?
High-quality carbs are in whole, unprocessed foods. Oats, quinoa, fruits, vegetables, beans, lentils. rich in fiber, vitamins, minerals,
And refined.
processed foods. White bread, sugary cereals, pastries, they've usually had the fiber and nutrients stripped out.
And the difference in effect.
The study suggests the fiber and nutrients in high-quality carbs boost metabolic health, reduce chronic disease risk. Refined carbs can do the opposite. It's really about nutrient density, whole foods over processed.
That whole versus refined distinction seems key, and fiber is a big part of that. Consumers Research asked, what are the main types of dietary fiber and their roles?
Primarily two types, soluble and insoluble.
Soluble.
Found in oats, barley, apples, beans. It dissolves in water, forms a gel, helps regulate blood sugar, lower cholesterol.
And insoluble.
And whole wheat. Vegetables. Doesn't dissolve, mainly helps with digestive regularity.
So we need both.
Yes. Both contribute to overall health, linked to lower risk of chronic diseases, which supports longevity. A good mix is important.
Fiber sounds like a real health hero. Now, how are we getting better at figuring out what we actually eat? Consumers Research asked, how have advances in technology, such as computer vision, improved the ability to assess dietary intake?
This is a cool intersection of tech and nutrition. Computer vision, deep learning, systems are being developed that can analyze food photos and estimate nutritional content.
Like calories and macros from a picture.
Exactly. Models like NutritionVerse Direct can do that. It's especially helpful for older adults who might struggle with recalling everything they ate accurately.
A more objective way to get dietary data for research or personal tracking.
Right. Less burden, more accuracy.
Clever. Consumers Research also looked way back. What impact does prenatal carbohydrate and sugar exposure have on late-life health outcomes?
A 2023 UK study looked at people exposed to different nutrition levels in the womb during wartime rationing. Interestingly, higher prenatal sugar and carb exposure was linked to lower BMI, lower sugar consumption, and even better educational attainment later in life.
That's surprising.
It supports the developmental origins theory that early life exposures, even prenatal, have lasting effects. Highlights how profound early nutrition is.
Wow, food for thought about long-term impacts. Zooming out again to longevity itself, Consumers Research asked, what do longevity studies suggest about the maximum potential human lifespan, and what factors influence longevity?
Well, based on studying supercentenarians, people living past 110, the current scientific consensus puts the maximum verified lifespan around 122 years.
Is there a theoretical limit?
Some researchers suggest maybe 127, perhaps even 150 under ideal conditions, but longevity is complex.
What influences it?
Genetics, diet, including those quality carbs, and fiber lifestyle environment. It's a mix, and it's worth noting, many popular claims about extreme longevity tricks lack solid science.
So we can aim for a longer, healthier life, but there might be biological limits. Okay, finally on health, Consumers Research looked at food regulation. How does the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, regulate dietary fiber, and what is the significance of inulin?
The FDA is key for food safety and labeling. In 2018, they recognized inulin, a soluble fiber, often from chicory root, as a dietary fiber ingredient for manufactured foods.
Why is inulin used?
It boosts fiber content, acts as a prebiotic, which is good for gut health, and it's generally recognized as safe, GRAS.
So FDA regulation helps manufacturers and consumers.
Yes, provides clarity for producers and helps us make informed choices about fiber intake.
Good to know there's oversight. And Consumers.app provided lots of references here, studies, Wikipedia pages on fiber, longevity, inulin, and that NutritionVerse Direct model.
Okay, our final topic in this deep dive takes us to an interesting place, where ancient wisdom meets modern wellness, specifically fasting.
Yes, the Times of India headline. 5 Buddha monastic fasting rules that can make you lose weight. Connects old practices to current health goals.
Exactly. Consumers Research started with, what are the core principles of Buddhist monastic fasting, and how are these practices different from extreme fasting methods?
What are those core principles?
It revolves around mindful eating, not eating solid food afternoon until the next sunrise, moderation in meals, and avoiding overindulgence.
And the difference from extreme fasting.
That's key. The Buddha advocated the middle way, a balanced approach. Not the severe self-denial he initially tried. This mindfulness and moderation distinguishes it from really rigorous fasts that can be harmful.
Balance and mindfulness, not deprivation. Consumers Research then asked, how do Buddhist monastic fasting rules relate to modern intermittent fasting and its impact on longevity?
There's a definite parallel between the time-restricted eating in Buddhist practice and modern intermittent fasting.
And the longevity link.
Well, emerging research suggests intermittent fasting might benefit longevity, by optimizing energy use, improving metabolic health, potentially reducing age-related disease risks.
It's fascinating when ancient practices align with modern science.
It really is. Suggests they might tap into some fundamental biological mechanisms for health.
So what specific benefits are studies finding? Consumers Research asked. What physiological benefits have recent studies identified regarding intermittent fasting?
Several potential ones. A metabolic switch body shifts from using glucose to fatty acids and ketones, which might boost cell resilience.
Anything else?
Improved insulin sensitivity, reduced inflammation, support for brain health, maybe lower risk of metabolic and neurodegenerative diseases. The research is still evolving, but findings are generating a lot of interest in promoting health span.
Compelling stuff. But are there caveats? Consumers Research asked, are there any scholarly gaps or considerations when applying longevity interventions like fasting to the general population?
Yes, absolutely. Caution is needed. While research is promising, scholars stress that effects vary hugely based on individual factors, genetics, health status, lifestyle.
So not one size fits all.
Definitely not. What works for one person might not be suitable or even safe for another. Personalized, evidence-based advice is crucial, and more research is needed on long-term effects across diverse groups.
An important reality check. Consumers Research also highlighted moderation in Buddhist fasting. What role does moderation play, and why is it important?
Moderation is central, reflecting that middle way philosophy. Eating until satisfied, not stuffed. Practicing mindful consumption during the eating window.
How does that help long-term?
It supports healthy weight management, reduces risk of metabolic syndrome, other chronic diseases linked to overeating. It fosters a sustainable relationship with food, focusing on well-being, not just restriction.
A balanced, sustainable approach. Now, thinking about lifespan limits again, Consumers Research asked, how do historical demographic models inform our understanding of human longevity?
These models analyze survival data, especially for supercentenarians. They give insights into potential lifespan limits.
What do they suggest?
Recent research using these models points to a possible intrinsic biological limit, maybe around 120 to 130 years.
So even with healthy practices like fasting, improving our health span.
Right, the years we live healthily, there might still be a natural ceiling on overall lifespan.
A realistic perspective. Finally, Consumers Research looked at practical results. What evidence supports the claim that Buddhist-inspired fasting can be a safe and effective method for weight loss?
Well, the time-restricted eating aspect aligns well with modern intermittent fasting research,
which
has shown it can be a safe, effective weight loss strategy for many. By limiting the eating window and encouraging mindful choices, it can naturally reduce calorie intake and improve metabolic health without extreme restriction.
Making it potentially more sustainable for weight management.
Exactly. A viable, sustainable approach for many.
Lots of wisdom there. And Consumers.app suggested Wikipedia on fasting in Buddhism and Buddhism itself for more background.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Consumers.app's May 17th commentary, it's really quite something to see the sheer range of topics all undergoing these shifts.
It really is. From pastry ethics to AI and farming.
From carbs and aging to ancient fasting wisdom, the connections between consumer trends, sustainability, health, technology, it's all deeply interwoven.
Absolutely. And we really want to thank you, the listener, for joining us as we explored the incredibly diverse, thought-provoking material from Consumers.app.
Definitely. Now, considering everything we've touched on today, the push for accountability and sustainability, the tech reshaping food and health, the new take on aging, what field of development do you think will have the most profound, the most lasting impact on our collective well-being in the decade ahead?